Welcome to the ripple effect of love for dads and families. Today, we have a very special episode for you where we talk about high emotions and the empathy it requires to get back to who we are. When your child is melting down, how do you stay calm? Very important thing. And what about when you feel like you're losing it? What do you do? So my special guest, Ashok, bringing him up here so you can meet him all the way from Toronto, psychiatrist, founder, and president of the Empathy Clinic, uses tools of empathy to diagnose and treat his clients. And he's also been on a musician's tour in Newfoundland. Woohoo! So not many people know that about me. I don't think I publicize it, but I was born in that area. So it's very cool to have you. Welcome to the live today, Ashok.
Thank you so much for having me, Christine. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about empathy, especially empathy for men who are fathers either for a while or starting out, because it's something we do not speak enough about. We talk a lot about moms and
Yeah.
mothering. We talk a lot about how moms can help their kids, but also how they can hurt their kids. When I came into psychiatry many, many, many years ago, we talked a lot about moms, and I used to think, what about dads? Because dads are at least 50%, maybe not exactly that, of the parenting that those children are going to be exposed to. Not even mentioning single dads who are raising their children alone, especially daughters. And so this is a conversation I've been looking forward to. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, maybe you could tell us how how our nervous system affects our child's emotions.
Well, well, that's a complex question, but let's realize something when we start out.
Yes.
When children are born, their nervous systems are very immature.
Hmm.
So human beings are one of the few animals that can't walk as soon as we're born. In fact, we can't walk for a year and a half, or sometimes longer. We can't talk for longer. So we have to have someone to hold us. And that's why
Mm.
human beings stand on 2 feet, because we need our arms free to hug each other, but also to hold our children. It's an interesting point because the nervous system of that child is still growing.
Yeah.
And it's growing now, instead of the internal environment of the mother, it's growing in concert with the external environment. And that absolutely includes the physical and the social and the emotional, I'm going to add spiritual environment that child is exposed to. And that can persuade the nervous system to go in various directions according to what's impinging on them, again, in their minds, in their bodies, in their souls and their spirits. So it's a very, very important thing to realize that as a parent, you
Yes.
are actually continuing to mold the Play-Doh like nervous system of a child to a shape that's hopefully optimal for them.
Yes, and I love how you explain that and the importance of sometimes we say, "Oh, mom, why don't you take the little one?" Well, dad, don't you want an amazing relationship with your little one? This is where it starts when they're just this little newborn and so they connect, they need to feel our warmth, they need to feel, like you said, the arms are so important for the hugs. Do you have any awesome tips to support these dads that are listening, or even grandparents, right, that are listening today, or want to be dads, right?
I think the most important tip I can give anybody for anybody in any circumstance is to show up. Be
Mm,
there. And let's remember that children are born quite helpless. They can't communicate verbally, but they can communicate emotionally, and they are absorbing from the moment they're born. And the emotion that you have as a young father hopefully is delighted excitement, maybe a little anxiety, maybe even some fear.
Yeah.
But when you calm your nervous system down and hold your baby and look into their eyes and fix their gaze and
Mhm.
smile, they don't learn to smile for a few weeks, but smile. The
Mhm.
warmth and the
Yeah.
empathy and the love that they're giving them is persuading their nervous systems to go into a safe, calm place themselves. And we all know at that party when someone's brought their baby and the baby's squealing away, there's always that one person that when they hand the baby around, that one person who can calm the baby down.
Yeah.
And what is that one person? The person who is calm themselves.
Yeah.
So babies can sense that way before they can speak and talk and do all kinds of things. They can sense who's the calm person around. So then the question becomes, and I hope this is something we're going to talk about, how do you get calm, especially if the person you're dealing with, like a baby or a young child who's having a tantrum, is not calm?
And yes, don't you want to be the calmest person in the room, right? I had a grandpa once join me at one of my events, and I said, "Well, you're kind of doing the snap tap zap in your own way because mom was overwhelmed, the baby was crying. Grandpa picked up the baby and tapped along gently along the spine. So you're calming down that amygdala. And of course, Grandpa was calm because he was breathing in and breathing out. And within a minute, that baby is calm and quiet and ready to be part of what's happening with Grandpa. Because what's happening with mom in that moment is too stressful. And and that's how babies end up living stress at a very young age, correct?
Well, you're tapping into a very powerful concept, and
Mhm.
that is who is supposed to raise a child. And we all know that a village raises the child, the tribe raises the child.
Yeah.
And what we've done in North America largely, many other countries don't do this, is that we've removed the parents, we've removed the grandparents, the extended family, and we've
Mhm.
got two stressed out adults, sometimes both of them working,
Yeah.
having a child, raising that child,
Yeah.
and not to blame them or shame them.
No, no, no.
They're overwhelmed and having some trouble regulating their child's nervous system. So the child
Mhm.
has trouble sleeping, eating, maybe they get tummy aches, uh,
Yeah.
maybe the child is absorbing a lot of that tension and stress around them. And then sometimes that gives them attentional issues, so now they're not attending as well. We have a huge issue with ADHD, attentional
Yeah.
deficit issues. So
Yeah.
I'm not blaming parents for causing this necessarily, but it is our responsible to find that common space. And in many other cultures, no, they don't have babysitters because you just have an extended family for that child to be passed over to. And so there's lots of calm people around. And I think this is something that we have to spend a little bit more attention on, getting ourselves regulated and self-regulated, so that that powerful experience of
Mhm.
calming the child becomes something that we do. And unfortunately, emotions are infectious. So if a child's anxious and crying, we get anxious and we start get.
Yeah.
But then also, if we're calm and
Yeah.
stabilizing, then that can go back to the child and help them to be calm and stabilized.
Exactly, and I've seen this, like, I taught for 30 years, so I got to observe this in the classroom, and, of course, the weather affects the classroom as well. However, if you show up really nice and calm and do an activity to calm them down to start, the 10 minutes you will use to calm the class down will be so much worth it. You will get at least 10 more minutes of work instead of spending the whole half hour telling them to be quiet and sit down, right? So it's the same thing with our beautiful kids at home, right? We need to stay calm. I know it's not easy. I know we've got a lot. And then kids go to daycares very young. Here in Quebec, they're highly suggested after 6 months they start going to the daycares. So, because they've put that into place. However, that need to be with the caregiver, the mom or the dad, whoever's giving the most of this, self-regulated emotion, right? Calm. So let's just hop into how is it that um, you teach to self-regulate? Because I've got my own technique that I talk about a lot, but I'd love to hear what your tips are for parents to self-regulate.
Well, the first step in self regulation is to check in with yourself to see where you are. And the
Yeah.
simplest thing could be a number from 1 to 10. And couples can certainly share that number. Where are you today? I'm kind of a 7. Well, I'm a 3, so maybe I should put the kids to bed tonight and we'll talk later. So understanding where you are. And the other issue is getting feedback from your partner. How do you see me? So sometimes I might come home and I got a big frown on my forehead. My wife is saying, "You did have a hard day," and I say, "No, I'm fine." So I need her to help me to have some awareness of where I'm at. So once you know where you're at, whether you're a 3 or a 7 or above, then it is your responsibility as an adult to try and bring that whatever that tension is to a calmer place. And I'm a big fan of doing things that are incompatible with stress. So being in nature, for example, on a beautiful day, or being on the water, that might be difficult sometimes, but being out, just looking at flowers close up. Something I love to do is to take a baby and go close up to flowers and show them the flowers, maybe help them touch the flower. It's amazing how calming it is because it makes me calm. And I think the other techniques of making oneself calm is laughter. It's
Oh,
so like if you're laughing and you're finding something humorous, it's very hard to be stressed out. It's very hard to be angry and laughing at the same time. And so I think sometimes just telling a joke, telling a story, lightening the mood, breaking the ice, and having some laughter. I'm a huge fan of music, as I probably mentioned a number of times.
yes.
So sometimes putting on soft music or 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 gentle music, nothing 120 beats per minute kind of stuff, but music is very and kids love music. They love especially they love repetitive, soft music because it reminds them of being inside their mommy's tummy. Because
Mm,
it's music inside
yeah.
there too. There's all these sounds, her breath, her heart, and
Mhm,
mumbled sounds that come from the outside. So it's very calming to the child as well. And the
mhm.
other thing too, this is talking about oxytocin,
Yes.
is give or get a hug. And
Yes.
that when we hug our children, when we hug our loved ones, when we are hugged by someone, and when we are hugging someone, our nervous systems, our parasympathetic nervous systems kick in. And it
Yes.
takes us from being from a state of more stress to a state of more calmness. And 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 something even like really simple, like if you have something nearby that you could read, to read aloud, especially to somebody else. There's no question, even if a kid who doesn't speak yet loves to be read to, but also it calms down the reader because you're reading in a slow way. You're putting some inflections in the way you're speaking. Your voice is going up. It's becoming musical now and down. And this is another way that triggers your brain to say, "Oh, we're in a calm state now." There's
Mhm.
lots of other things to do, but I'll leave it there for now.
I love the reading, and I can still remember when my dad and we were teens by then, he would read Asterix and Obelix, which is a French comic, book, and of course, there was the big guy and the little guy, so the voices, and we would all sit on the couch as teenagers and listen to my dad read because my dad had anger issues, so when there was this nice moment it was nice to be able to just be there and laugh together and have those moments that were, precious that I still remember and attached to keep that attachment because that's a really good one to keep. So
Yeah,
thank
that
you so much. And there's things like touching something that's soft too. Will really there's those rocks they sell and they're really smooth and for some people that smooth touch feels really cool.
I mean, that's a great point. All of our senses can calm us. Our sense of smell, just smelling an odor that's pleasant,
Yes.
that's like apple pie or lavender. It's smells that are sensitive. And but not strong, but kind of gentle, but also kind of home based. So all of our senses can calm us down.
Yeah. That's really cool. I just wanna add that a gentle home-based sense. Yes. Okay, trying
Yeah,
to write and add
right,
and
of course.
do it all at the same time.
Well, you're doing a
Here we
great
go.
job, Christine.
Excellent. So, and how okay, so once we've all calmed down and I can just show quickly first if it's a new, viewer, how I created Snap Tap Zap because I was in survival mode 24/7 when I started my journey, this coaching journey, and I needed something, and my clients that I was attracting were also on very hyper, vigilant, states. So I created the Snap Tap Zap to just and the sound, right? So a sound will just, "Oh, okay, what's going on?" There's a sound, and if you always start with the snap, if you can't snap, you can clap for the little kids, and you can do it with us, Ashok, so that you can give it a try. So snap, breathe in, tap on the sternum, roughly at the heart level. You can relax the shoulders, hold the air, and then exhale that out. Pay attention to your body as you breathe in again. Relax the shoulders. Imagine there's a train at a train station. You're going to blow whatever stress, frustration, overwhelm you have into it, and it will bring it down into the magma to burn that emotion. How does that feel?
That feels better, doesn't it?
It's really kind of cool how you can really, but I'm using a lot of senses here. And I discovered that imagination was very important. Okay, so now I have another question for you, and I hope the viewers are all feeling calmer like we are. How do you listen to help your children process their high emotions? Mm.
So the key of empathy, the first part of empathy is to ask a question. The second part is to listen.
Mm.
The third part is to imagine what you've been told as if you're watching a movie and reflect it back. Then ask another question to get more information. This is really powerful with teenagers, especially. So I think when we ask the question, and it might be a straightforward one like, what are you up to? Or what are you doing? Or a little deeper, how are you feeling? What feelings does that one give you? If they're having trouble identifying the feelings, then you can give them a choice. And I use something called colorpathy with
Mhm.
people who have trouble expressing their feelings. And it's quite simple. Green is glad, blue is sad, red is mad, and yellow is, I call it frad or afraid. And so if they can give me a color, sometimes people find it easier to give a color than an emotion,
Yeah.
then I can tune into where they're at emotionally.
Mm.
And listening for me is difficult because you have to quieten your mind. If you're
Yes.
thinking about something while someone's telling you something, you've got two things going on, your thoughts and their words. So you
Yeah.
have to kind of take your thoughts off screen and focus on those words. And a lot of people think, oh, I need to say so. Oh, I need to, while they're talking, relax your mind. And I kind of liken it to being in school, taking notes. You're
Mhm.
listening, you're taking notes, you're listening and taking notes. And when the person's finished, then you can ask a question. Uh, because I think if we interrupt someone when they're in their flow, we've disrupted them. We've disrupted, and it sometimes will lessen the likelihood they're going to tell you more or feel safe to tell you more. So it's really important as well when you ask a question and listen, wait for the person to finish or ask them to let you know when they're finished so that then you can move on with the next phase of the understanding part of it. So listening is so key. And people can tell whether they're being listened from the heart
Mm.
or not. And I think when you lean into listen to someone from a heart-centered space, it feels different than someone who's kind of looking around the room just waiting for it to finish, or someone who can't wait to tell you what they're going to say.
And I would even add to that, when I'm talking to someone on the phone, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, "Are you there?" I can feel that they've disconnected, they're doing something else, and I just kind of I wait until they're ready to be present and continue. Because what's the use? I'm talking into midair, and it's not going to give us anything, right? So, that is something that if we do this with our children, they learn that when they come to us, they sometimes need to also wait a little bit until they're ready. And I had developed, 1 or 2 fingers, and they knew if it was 1 finger, I had to finish this up very quickly, or 2 fingers, it would take a little bit longer. And they if we are consistent with our sign language, right, they learn from that because kids are so, so, so smart, and we need to give them credit for that. I have a quick question that just popped in my head. So if you have an infant, how do you listen to them? How do you read their nonverbal language?
Well, human beings have had nonverbal language since the beginning of time. So about 400,000 years ago, and had language about 50,000 years ago, which means that prehistoric men and women had to guess all that stuff based on just the body habitus, just the way we move, our facial expressions, our inflections, utterances that are not words, they're simply and coos and ahs and woos and those kinds of things. So you can actually really engage an infant very magically by holding them gently. If they're on a crib, or looking into their eyes, cooing and wooing using a soft, not too high or low pitched voice. Kids love male voices because they feel the bass. They love that.
Right.
I would put my kids on my chest. I don't have a low voice, but oh, and just feel the vibration, and it's so calming. And they're just very relaxing.
Mm,
So that's about connecting with all the nonverbal ways that we have.
mhm.
And if you think of two people who are not using any words but are very connected to each other, they can explore a lot in that moment simply by the way they are feeling the energies of each other. That's all kids are. They're just the energies of themselves looking to stretch out and connect with the energies of those in their surroundings. And that's where dads can really come in. Because and I would be accused of getting the kids all riled up at night because I'm throwing them in the air. It's bedtime. My wife says, "What are you doing? They're supposed to be going to sleep." And they're all giggling and etc. But I think we have so much energy, but let's make it good energy.
Yeah,
The energy when they absorb it, it's calming. We can talk about firmness another day, but just using your energy in as productive way. And the lesson there is you're teaching your child how to use their energy properly as well.
yeah. That's beautiful. That is very, very beautiful. So, I had one more question because time is, how to help your children through emotions without fixing or dismissing them? Mm,
Well, I think that's a great question because I've been a therapist for 40 years now. And if I thought that my job is to fix my clients' problems, I'd be burnt out. My job is to hear them out and support them emotionally. If they ask for guidance, I'm not shy to suggest it. But every time I tell someone how to fix their problems, I'm robbing them of the opportunity to learn how to live with those emotions for a moment, learn how to self-regulate, bring it down to a controllable level, and then moving forward with a calmer mind that is always better at finding a solution than a distressed one.
mm,
So I think that one of the hard, especially with teenagers, is just listen, hear them out.
yes.
What's going on? What are you going through? I'm here to listen instead of I'm here to lecture. And I think that's something that can happen very early in life.
And instead of I'm here to lecture, I still remember I was having issues with my teen son at one point, and I went to the male teachers in the school and I said, "What do I do? How do I handle him?" They said, "Christine, you say one sentence and that's it. And then you are quiet." and it worked. Be quiet. Listen, even if he loved arguing. So he would argue, 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 and I would just listen to all his arguments, and then he'd be out of arguments, and sometimes it's very interesting because for half an hour I've done this before. I've self-regulated myself while the person talked for half an hour and came full circle to say exactly what my point was. And I was like, "That's interesting." Yeah.
Yeah, it's kinda like a boomerang. If someone throws a boomerang, um, it'll come back to them. You
Mm,
don't have to push the boomerang in a different direction. It will come back to them. And I'm of the belief that most human beings know their answers. They just need to find them.
yes.
And when they learn that, even as children, watching a child play or
Mhm,
play with a new toy or paint something for the first time or start squeezing clay, they're so creative. They're so unspoiled by the directions they get nudged in later on that might say, well, this is the way you do this and that. And we need education, of course. That's a very powerful necessity. But what about that freedom to explore and discover the size of their minds and their own innate curiosity? So I think that's something that
mhm.
we want to encourage as much as possible. um, I remember one time we had a little bit of toothpaste problem in our house. Our kids were putting toothpaste on stuff. So we went out and bought some bristle board and some toothpaste and said, here, paint all you want. That's all they were doing. They were expressing themselves. And then we had no more toothpaste problems after that.
I
So
love that.
it's
Sorry.
about encouraging the creativity, I think.
Do you have any other super tips like that that you, learned from, experiences that you've had with your beautiful children?
Well, I think the best tip I can give right off the top of my head is to do things together. And I think, we often had, we had 3 children, so it was lots of one-on-one time, but I used to love to go out for nature walks, and they were very, very simple. And I'm a biologist in my background as well, so there's plenty of stuff I can talk about, but I would love to watch them explore. Let's turn over this stone and see what's underneath it. And when kids are in the vicinity of each other, their own curiosity is infectious. And with their presence of an adult and who's curious to learn and look, and especially out in nature, this
Mhm.
is where curiosity plus calm plus learning plus emotional regulation is happening. And so it's not going to the amusement park on a roller coaster, which is fun too, but that's a
Yeah.
very different experience.
Mhm.
Sometimes think of calm things to do. Sitting down, reading a book together, playing music together. We have musical instruments. Sometimes everyone had something to bang on or make a noise with, and it would go on for a few moments until someone got irritated. But it brings people together, and it's something our culture needs to do a whole lot more of. There are entire tribes out in Africa that everyone comes together to chant and sing and
Mm.
play something. And do they have teenage problems? Not as much as we do because we don't have that come together as much to our places we do, of course. But I think that's a great tip for anyone. It's to do things with. We always had our kids at our dinner table as well, and they sat with us and learned how to use chopsticks and all those kind of things with us. So I think it's that withness that I'm talking about that
Mhm.
begins to reinforce emotional regulation. Because after all, we are a social creature.
I love that. I wanna write that. Do things with your children, and that I still raking leaves in the fall here we have.
Oh my
I
gosh, yes.
I had so many trees with leaves, and so what I would do is I would bring the wheelbarrow, tip it on the side, we'd pull the leaves in, put a kid there, and the other kid would help me turn the wheelbarrow over, and that one got a ride in the wheelbarrow and then dumping them. We'd make
That
a huge pile, and then for Halloween, we'd fill out the Halloween bags that had decorations on them, whatever, and we'd place them around the property for Halloween, and they loved it. And
that's
I
exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what
yeah.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And shoveling. I mean, we shovel a lot here in the national park of Mount Orford. So I have a big bucket shovel, and I would put my daughter in it because she was small, 4, and we'd have to go fast so she'd get lots of snow on her and giggle, and then I'd dump it, and then I'd run to the next spot, she'd dump on top of the snow, and then, and it became a game, and you'd forget that an hour of shoveling had gone by.
Exactly,
It
exactly.
was an hour of play, which was really fun. Yeah.
And I mean, that's such a great tip. Make it feel like play. Even if
Yeah.
you're doing dishes and chores in the house, make it feel like play. Put on some music, dance with the vacuum, and all those kind of things to make it look like play. And those are great lessons for when your kids grow up and they are running their homes and raising their kids, and well, let's make this feel like play. Perfect
Yeah.
example, Christine.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Our time is already up. It went by so fast,
Ah!
and I'd love people to share what's the hardest emotion for you to handle. And if you'd like to have Ashok come back, please let me know. I think this was an awesome conversation. I even learned some little tips in there that are helping me with what I'm self-regulating and clearing out of my infant part. Oh, working way, way back to empower myself to be the best version of myself. So, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you need any support, book a call. I will put Ashok's information in the chat below the posting after the show. So take great care of yourself, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1